Hey everyone, happy Thursday, July 3rd. It's about 8:45 in the morning on the West Coast and it's time for another market update. Well, all on the global front's been pretty quiet. Nothing new there that's really affected the markets. There's this, the big beautiful bill is going through Congress right now. Once that's fully enacted or not enacted, that might have an effect on the markets. And there has been more pressure ramped up on Fed Chair Powell from President Trump. But main things we're going to get in this week is all data related. So first one going back to last Friday was May PCE inflation report. Keep in mind this is the Fed's favorite form of inflation to take a look at, and they've been hyper focused on inflation. So this is always very important. Remember, their job is to keep jobs strong and inflation down. So we got to look at jobs and inflation. So, like I said, May PCE numbers came in, and the headline number came in as estimated at 0.1% month over month. Year over year, we're still at 2.3%. The core number came in a little higher than expected at 0.2% a month over month compared to 0.1. Year over year, we're at 2.7, where the estimate was 2.6. However, that's because right here, originally last month was 2.52. When this came out, they revised last month up a little bit to 2.58. So that took it, from around 2.5 to a 2.6. It went up to 2.68. So that's where, it went from 2.5 to 2.7, when in reality, it was actually going up from 2.6 to 2.7. And then the core number just being up 0.179, that's a really benign number. It's under 2, which is the Fed's target. So really a pretty low report. Market didn't have too much of a reaction. And then if you look at the 6-month and the 3-month run rate for the core, so just a 6-month or 3-month average, where this number right here is year over year is 12 months. The Fed, going back to February, the 6-month was at 3.4. It's at 2.9 now, so coming down. And then the February 3-month rate was 4.2, and we're down to 1.6. So heading in the right direction. Like I said, the markets reacted pretty positively to this report. Nothing too crazy, so that was good to see. And then where did the inflation come from in the core? It's still shelter. Shelter was the main part of it. It's getting better. The shelter is catching up. That data lags quite a bit. It's getting better, but you add all this up, and it's just shelter, healthcare, prescription drugs, and newspapers went up 0.03, which is odd. I'm not sure where maybe the cost of paper or printing or something like that, but who besides my father gets a newspaper anymore? So that's where inflation came from. So pretty good numbers. Markets reacted pretty well. Next thing we got, this is jobs week. So all the big jobs report, like I said, it's all about inflation and jobs. So after the good, decent PCE number, good jobs week would be very good for rates. So the first thing we got was May JOLTS job openings that it tracks. Keep in mind that this a lot of times it double counts online listings, so it's not the most accurate number, but it did come in higher than expected. It's supposed to be about 7.3 million jobs available. That came in at 7.769 million. And again, basically the more jobs available, it seems like the stronger the job market's doing. The stronger the job market's doing, the less likely it is that the Fed would cut rates. And that's what we want them to do. So that was not the best report, but again, not the most important one. The important ones in Jobs Week are the ADP and our nemesis, the BLS. So starting with ADP, and it really was a tale of two job reports. Starting with ADP, ADP came in at negative 33,000 jobs created. It was supposed to be about 100,000, 95,000 jobs created. ADP said we lost 33,000 jobs. And they also revised last month from 37 down to 29,000. So good for that. As far as we want to see job weakness, this was definitely a very weak report. The only jobs, small businesses really got hit hard, medium businesses, large businesses added a little bit. Leisure and hospitality was the only gainer. Professional business service down quite a bit at negative 56K. And then the other part about this, wages. Wages dropped across the board for both job stayers and job switchers. And again, that's inflation related. The reason we like that is that the more money we make, the more money we spend. That can be inflationary. So we want to see, again, I have no problem with people making more money, but, the markets do because we tend to spend more, and then that creates inflation. So this ADP report was really good. Negative jobs, negative 33,000 compared to 100,000, about estimates. So this was good in the fact that it was weak, because the weaker things look, the more likely it is the Fed will cut rates. However, this morning we just got the BLS jobs report, and keep in mind this BLS jobs report has been our nemesis. It comes in very, very high compared to estimates. It doesn't match up with that ADP report, things like that. And the BLS jobs report was supposed to come in at about 110,000 jobs created, came in at 147,000 jobs created, according to the Business Establishment Survey. Keep in mind, there's two parts to this. We'll get in the second part in a bit. Business establishment survey. They take some payroll data, they do a bunch of seasonal adjustments and math, and then they spit out these numbers. The birth death model created 24,000 jobs, so not too crazy compared to some months, but compared to ADP, small business down 47,000. And then they actually made positive revisions to May and April. Very small ones, but in the, what we've been dealing with is a lot of negative revisions, which makes you not trust the data. But they actually added to the last 2 months, which again makes you not trust the data, but not good for us in situations. So came in higher than expected. Plus, they did positive revisions and added more jobs to May and April. So not good on that front. Where did the jobs come from? So this is where you kind of look at these numbers and go, what is going on here? So the government added 73,000 jobs, which they were tended to, with Doge and all that, they were laying people off. And then at the state and local education level, 63 of those 73,000 jobs came from state and local education. We're going into summer. Generally, this is where it'll be weaker for local education and teachers and things like that. But seasonally adjusted, they had it at plus 63,000. Non-seasonally adjusted, when they actually just do the math and count them and not do their formulas and stuff, was at negative 542,000. So the seasonal adjustment really doesn't make sense to take place for them to do a big seasonal adjustment by over 600,000 jobs to state and local education as we're heading into summer. So that's interesting. The rest of the jobs, it was basically these three main ones: government, healthcare, and social assistance went up by 59,000, and leisure and hospitality went up by 20,000. So again, this is just the business establishment survey. Weird math. It's weird that they would have so many jobs, adjusted, for basically teachers and things like that, school related stuff, as we're going into summer. Next thing, the household survey. So this is the second part of this. This is when they actually call people, talk to them on the phone, look at things. This is where unemployment rate comes from. According to this, there was just 93,000 jobs created. However, the total labor force dropped by 130,000. So that's if people haven't, applied for a job in the last 4 weeks, they drop them off these numbers. So people are, they remove people from the roles basically, whether these people are just no longer looking for jobs or they just didn't find a job to apply for in the last 4 weeks. So since the total labor force dropped, the way they do, the math on unemployment made the unemployment rate drop from 4.2 to 4.1%. It was actually supposed to go up to 4.3%. So it went down to 4.1%. Again, I'm all for people having jobs. I don't want the unemployment rate to be high, but this is something the market's looking at. This is something the Fed's paying attention to, and basically saying, hey, look, unemployment's going down. We're not breaking anything. Why do we have to cut rates if we're worried about inflation and the job market's doing fine? So that's why this report, once again, was such a bad report for us today. Like I said, tale of two reports. ADP was very weak. BLS was very strong. And again, it's going to affect things because now the Fed's going to look at that and say the job market's strong. Initial jobless claims came in a little bit lower than expected. 240 was the estimate, 233 was the actual number. Continuing claims still high where people are staying on unemployment. So again, just another sign about the job market, what the Fed's looking at. A little bit higher than it has been over the last, a little bit lower than last few weeks, higher than it had been earlier in the year. So have to keep an eye on that because again, the job market's very important for what the Fed's going to do. Where does that leave us? The average 30-year last week was 6.75. We actually got down to 6.67 earlier in the week, and now we're up to 6.8 because of that jobs report. So still kind of just hanging out in this general area between 6.7 and 6.9. It seems like, or maybe about 7 over the last couple months. So still kind of hanging right there. Again, this jobs report, if it came in our favor, would have done a lot more. We'd probably be heading down to 6.5, closer to that, 6.6, 6.5. Important dates. So we got CPI inflation coming up on July 15th. We got the Fed's next meeting on July 30th. This jobs report basically killed any chance that they would cut rates at that meeting. It was supposed to be, it was about a 20% chance earlier. Now it's down to 5%. There's still, the markets are still thinking September they're going to cut rates. But if we keep getting strong jobs data and inflation ticks up, who knows what's going to happen there? So a little bit disappointing jobs report. Like I said before, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do not believe these job reports. As far as this BLS one, not good for us, but got to hang in there. So if anybody needs anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday weekend, a great 4th of July, and spend time with family and friends. And if you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out and have a great week, guys. Thanks a lot.